Well, that was quite a testimony that Pastor Jim Cymbala shared with us, and I know people were so encouraged at that. And I remember when we were at the Cove there that day, and he said, if you have a child or a grandchild that's wayward, that's away from God, and you want us to pray for them, would you just come to the front? And I was overwhelmed. That was an overwhelming moment for me, because 85 to 90% of those who were present came to the front. Now, these were
grandchildren and children.
That's right, and these were the cream of the crop. I mean, these were not people who were just new in the faith. I mean, these were pastors and leaders who had a heart for revival, and yet the vast majority of them were had children who were away from the Lord, or grandchildren who were away from the Lord. And I think there's a lot of people out there right now that are facing that. Now, we were talking before we went into the thing with Jim about our own situation. Both our son and daughter in college got away from the Lord. Why don't you tell the folks, tell us today what happened, what brought them back to the Lord, what brought them back to and they're both serving the Lord right now. They're both in Angola, Africa, at this very moment, ministering the Word of God. And pray for them. But what happened to bring them back to this place?
What had happened was both Dave and Renee were discipling and, like I said, sharing with people in high school. And let me just say, one thing, after Dave came back to the Lord, he said, Mom, he said, one thing you always told me was that you loved me. Even though I was doing things that were wrong, that you loved me. And it was true, because I saw how much God loved me. And even when I was doing things wrong, I knew that He loved me. And the second thing he said, when he was away from the Lord, he said he knew that there were people that we had asked to pray for him.
Yeah.
And so he had gotten away from the Lord. He had been doing whatever he wanted to do out in the world, and doing things he knew that were pleasing to us, or to the Lord mainly. And then there was a young lady in his life that challenged him, said, okay, I want to tell you about something.
But before you get there, I remember there were some things that happened all during this time. Mm-hmm. I remember him telling us that there was he and some of his friends went to play basketball, and they went afterwards to a coffee shop to get some coffee, and they were sitting there visiting, and this little waitress comes up and says, I want to ask you guys something. Here's this little gal who's a waitress, and these three big strapping guys, just played basketball, and she says, if you were to die right now, do you have the assurance you'd go to heaven?
That's right. That's right.
And of course, Dave knew exactly what was going on. She was sharing the Lord with him, and God just used that, and all along the way. And then one day we came back from Cuba, and you finished the story there.
We came back from Cuba, and Dave was going to be doing had proposed to do a business plan over in the country of Romania.
Right.
And that fell through,
Right.
and so he came back to us and he said, there's the girl that I had formerly dated, Kelly, who's now his wife, mm-hmm. which we love her to death. She challenged me if I would come to this school that she's going to in Texas. It's called a discipleship school. And he said, he kind of had a twinkle in the eye. He said, I really didn't want to go to school. He said, I really want to see Kelly again, because they had broken up. In fact, she had broken up with him.
I was going to say that.
They had both been walking with the Lord in high school, and she broke up with him after he got away from in the university, because he started getting away from the Lord. And she said...
And she had a commitment that she would only date someone who loved Jesus the way she did, and as much as she cared for and loved Dave, Dave wasn't walking with the Lord. Our son wasn't walking with the Lord, so she broke up with him. And
that was tough.
Yeah, and that was hard for her. But then God prompted her to call
yes.
Dave and say, come up and visit this school.
And he did. And the reason he wanted to go was to see her. But he got up there, and that day he describes it as, he said they had to spend a whole day, almost a whole day, just in prayer and getting alone. He said, and the God that I knew when I was younger, and I began to read in the Word, he said, God began to speak to my heart, because I had Jesus, still had Jesus in my heart, because he never left him, and he never forsook him. But Dave had walked away.
Yeah.
And that day, God just began to do a work in his life. And,
yes.
And he began to see what he had been missing as a believer.
for me, I was just shocked when we came in from Cuba, and he was supposed to be in Romania, and there he was at the airport. And we said, "What are you doing?" And he began to share with us what had happened. And I'm going to be honest here. I remember you saying, "I'm a little skeptical about this," and I said, "Hon, this is what we've been praying for."
I thought, well, we've tried so many different things, and yet God took all those things and used it in his life to bring him to that point.
And he went through this. He ended up going through this 9-month school of discipleship.
He did.
And God just, there was a lot of junk in him that he picked up in college that God had to just get out of him. And in that 9-month school, God did that. And then when he finished, matter of fact, he called us from Siberia.
He did.
Collect.
Yeah.
Anybody want to pay our bill out there?
He did.
But anyway, he called us collect from Siberia and said, "Dad, Mom, I feel like God's put a call on my life into the ministry."
And I can tell you as a mom and as a dad that we fell on our knees that day. And I'll never forget that day, because I could remember God saying throughout the years, "Trust me, I've given you promises," just like he's given some of you moms and dads promises. "I've given you promises for your children. And if you will just trust me, I will be faithful." And we got down on our knees and we said, "God, thank you for your faithfulness to our son."